Andreas Krieg is an assistant professor of defence studies at King's College London, joining us here in the studio in Doha. The rebels are saying we're here and we're here to stay. What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, Aleppo has a very significant position within the Syrian civil war on the map. So it means the rebels will have to do everything they can in order to hold the pocket that they're still holding. And at the moment, we have to understand the pocket that they're still holding is still the old city. That's the heart of Aleppo, the heart of this old, very, very important city in northern Syria. So they will not just give it up as easily as they might have withdrawn from the territories they've lost over the last couple of days.
Okay, but can they sustain that? I mean, given that what seems to be going on here is that government forces identify a pinch point and then they target that, they literally target that and zero in on that. Correct. And that seems to be working for them so far. Right.
It has worked in the neighborhoods that they've been fighting in the last couple of days, because we have very wide streets. We have projects that have been built since the 1960s, so very wide open space. Now we're moving towards the old city, a lot of small alleyways, an old oriental bazaar and a market. To fight in that is very difficult. Also, the rebels have held this territory for quite some time. But you're right. I mean, what they've tried to do, the Syrian army has to exactly do double envelope strategy, trying to encircle areas and then smoke them out, cleanse them of civilians as much as they can, destroy all the infrastructure that sustains the livelihood of the rebels, and then move in and do what is in the end ethnic cleansing, if you will. So they will try to do the same for the southern part of the pocket in the old city of Aleppo. How successful it will be, we will see. Also, it might be that the rebels will withdraw strategically, regroup and then attack again. Because we shouldn't forget that even when the Syrian regime claims victory and arguing that they've seized a certain territory, it doesn't mean they have the capacity and the capability to actually sustain and hold that kind of territory. So it might be that they might move back in afterwards.
But street-by-street fighting, urban guerrilla warfare, that's ISIL's calling card. That's correct. Historically what they've always been very good at. Yes. So if the fight to topple this part of Aleppo, with the potential consequences that may come from that, if that then moves into these literally smaller areas, surely that means that the rebels have the home field advantage almost.
To a certain degree, because we shouldn't forget, those who are fighting on the side of the Syrian regime are not regular soldiers. They're special forces of the regular Syrian military, and the other half, probably more than half, will be our militias, such as Hezbollah, Iranian and Shia militias, for example, the people from the Al-Quds force who are trained. I mean, Hezbollah hasn't done anything else since the 1980s, but training for urban guerrilla warfare. So they're very good at that. So we're having somewhat equal contestants here who are very well aware of how that works. But obviously you're right. It's the home turf for the rebels. They know that territory. They have their hideouts. They have their supply lines within that territory. So they have a slight advantage. But does that mean they can actually hold it without any foreign support? I doubt it, because if you look to the west of Aleppo, we still have a lot of FSA and other rebel forces who are holding out outside of Aleppo. They might try to reconnect that pocket again with the main Idlib province and then create a resupply line. But that is obviously everything the Russians and the Syrians are trying to prevent at that point.
What's the high watermark of success here for either side, given that it seems to be, people are saying this explicitly, it seems to be we want to do as much as we can do before Donald Trump moves into the White House?
Absolutely, that's what it's all about. Look, Aleppo, even if that pocket gets lost in the worst case scenario, this is not the end of the Syrian civil war, right? There are still more than 100,000 rebel fighters, opposition fighters fighting. They will continue fighting even in Idlib province and just outside Aleppo. And it means that next year, it's a very dynamic situation. They might move back in and retake Aleppo and fight another day. So the key issue here is the Syrian military cannot sustain the territory for long that they have seized now. And if they can't do that, at some point, a couple of months down the line, the rebels might move back in.
Really? You think they could come back in again? You think they've got the resources, the money, the infrastructure to be able to do that at some point in, say, 3 months?
They're not very strong, but let's not forget the Syrian army and the Syrian military doesn't have the infrastructure either. They don't have enough people to do that and hold their territory.
Okay, so it's weakness by default, in other words.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, Andreas, many thanks. Appreciate your time.